What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So today I want to talk a little bit about the Scarlet and Violet era as a whole and just give my thoughts about where I think the SVR is going to be in 5 years, and compared to the Sword and Shield era, maybe even the Sun and Moon era, we'll talk about a little bit. Where does it sort of stand? And I got the idea for this video. I was talking to Cody. If you guys don't know who Cody is, he's the guy behind Shiny, the developer. He really is the heart and soul of that project. So this isn't a sponsored video or anything, but that's kind of where the idea came from. So shout out to Cody and Shiny for that. But before we get into that, I do want to start off. The Charizard UPC dropped today on the Pokemon Center. I believe it was Limit 1. So if you guys did manage to get one, let me know in the comments down below. Congratulations. I stay up way too late to get up early to get into these drops at like 8 a.m. PST, 8:30 a.m. By the time I woke up, the queue had already been going for a couple hours, so I didn't even bother getting in. I don't think it would have been worth it anyways, because I think like 30 minutes later, it had been sold out, I guess, or out of stock in Canada. But to get into this video, we'll start off by just talking about all the sets. So in Scarlet and Violet era, we only have 10 booster boxes, whereas in Sword and Shield, Sun and Moon, we have 12. And I think that's not really a huge deal, but just when we think about the amount of sets in an era, right? That's two less chances that the Scarlet and Violet era could have to have very cool top chase cards. And we're going to look at all the top chase cards in the SV era compared to the Sword and Shield era and just use that as kind of like a guide in kind of explaining where I'm going with this, at least my thought process. So we have SV base, probably one of the best base sets out there. I know some people think that the Mega Evolutions base set is going to be the best. It probably will be. Honestly, the cards look amazing in that set. The gold cards from the Mega Block, I actually think are probably the best gold cards so far that Pokemon has put out. And then also some of those SIRs, the Lucario, the Gardevoir, the Venusaur, they all look awesome. But after SV base, we had Paldea Evolve, we have Obsidian Flames, Paradox Rift. It's actually still selling over $300, by the way. Most recent sale yesterday, $320. We haven't seen a sale below $300 yet after that pump. Temporal Forces, up to $250, by the way. Twilight Masquerade after that, Stellar Crown, Surging Sparks, which is almost $300 now. We didn't get to 400 likes yesterday, guys, so I'm not going to shill anything, but Surging Sparks, we are getting very close to $300 average if we do the 1 month chart here, because I think TCG Player, whatever they do, like if you click on 1 month, 6 month, or a year, it's always a different number than the 3 month, but we are getting a lot closer to $300 there. Journey Together, everyone's favorite set. Destined Rivals, the worst set of the era, obviously. And then specialty sets 151, Paldean Phase, Shrouded Fable, Prismatic Evolutions, and then Black Bolt and White Flare. So the first thing I want to say and get it out of the way, because I don't think this is super controversial, Scarlet and Violet era has way better specialty sets compared to the Sword and Shield era, and also, in my opinion, probably the Sun and Moon era. Black Bolt and White Flare aren't the best, but they're still solid. Prismatic Evolutions is arguably the best set of the era. We also had Paldean Fates with the Bubble Mew, probably one of the most iconic cards of the era. And then also 151, the nostalgia factor here. So many people coming back to the hobby from 151. You compare these sets to the Scarlet, or to the Sword and Shield era, excuse me. We had Crown Zenith, sure, which is awesome. Some people like Celebrations, but Shining Fates, Champion's Path, Pokemon Go, those sets are all terrible. Nobody really liked those. So I think when we look solely at the specialty sets, Esfera wins by far. Now, when you get into booster boxes and we talk about those sets in general, this is where things get a bit closer. Here's a list of all the top cards from the Sword and Shield era and the Sun and Moon era, or excuse me, from the Scarlet and Violet era. No Sun and Moon stuff. I didn't want to put in all the sets here, but you can see the majority of the top 10 cards are from the Sword and Shield era. And those definitely are, I'd say, the more iconic cards. You have the Moonbryon up top around $2,200. The Gengar VMAX back around $700, $750. Rayquaza is right there as well. The Umbreon V, surprisingly, has had another buyout over the past 48 hours. So I don't think a lot of you guys have seen this, but I'm going to bring the chart up here. We did have that move if we do the 3 month chart here, where it was around $220. And then in the middle of August, we bumped up to around $300. But over the past week or so, we've moved from $372 up to around $440. And now we're up to $660. And the ridiculousness, yesterday, one sale at $1,000 raw. We had multiple other sales around $990 USD, $750 USD. No sales today, though, on September 25th so far, but that is just mind-blowing how fast this card is moving up. TCG Player, the buyouts, it really is a fun thing, guys. I mean, some people get so worked up about TCG player buyouts and people spending a few $1,000s to manipulate a card. I just think it's funny. I enjoy staring at it. Again, this is someone who doesn't actually own any slabs or high-end singles. So to me, it's just something fun to look at. I really don't get too worked up about it. I don't think you should either. And if anything, I think it just presents opportunities for some people to get out of cards that maybe they were thinking of getting rid of anyway. But the point is, the majority of the top cards are Sword and Shield, but not by much. But I do think that they do have some of the more iconic cards if we were going to rank them. So in that sense, Sword and Shield is great. Now, Scarlet and Violet era, you still have some awesome cards. The Umbreon EX from Prismatic is over $1,000 again. The Mew EX from Paldean Fates is still up there around $650. Rocket's Mewtwo EX from Destined Rivals is expensive now. I'm curious to see where this ultimately ends up after we get reprints of Destined Rivals. You have the Red Victinis from Black Bolt and White Flare. You also have the Zekrom and Reshiram HPW cards, or whatever they are. And then outside of that, the Magikarp. This was another card I did bring up here. We're up to around $400, guys, on the Magikarp. I'm sure a lot of you haven't seen this yet, but we did move from around $270 up to around $300, and that was like 2 days ago. And now we're up to around $386, and recent sales from today, $500. Another one at $500, $475, and then we had some at $435. So someone's been buying out the Magikarp today. I'm curious to see how high this goes. I didn't bother checking eBay to see what PSA 10s are doing, but I imagine those might be getting bought out as well, especially with near mint copies moving up. But to get back on track here, after talking about all that, I think the top end cards, you have to give it to Sword and Shield. Specialty sets, you're giving to Scarlet and Violet era, but there's still a lot of awesome cards from the Scarlet and Violet era. Now, the other thing that a lot of people don't discuss as much about the Scarlet and Violet era is the opening experience. I think a lot of people enjoy the fact that there are illustration rares in basically every set outside Prismatic and a couple others. Maybe, I'm trying to think, it might just be Prismatic. But the point is, it's a lot easier to pull cards compared to some of the other sets from the Sword and Shield era that are earlier. Obviously, the later ones, like Brilliant Stars onwards, we got the Trainer Galleries, we got the Galarian Gallery in Crown Zenith, but up to like Fusion Strike, right? It's very difficult if you don't get an alt art to pull anything that's interesting or cool looking. You might get a full art, or are there even gold cards in Fusion Strike? I can't even remember. So it wasn't a great opening experience. Now that said, people are still going to open Evolving Skies. They're still going to open Fusion Strike. They're still going to open Prismatic Evolutions, even though there aren't illustration rares in it. And the reason for that is people like to gamble. They want to chase those expensive top hits. They don't care as much about the lower tier hits, at least not everybody, but there are going to be some people that when they open, 10 packs, 20 packs, whatever, they do want to go home with a couple illustration rares. So it's something to consider. And I think that these eras are still fairly close. It's not like the Sword and Shield era is far ahead of the Scarlet and Violet era. And for the people that think the SV era is better, it's not like the SV era is super far ahead of the Sword and Shield era, at least in my opinion. I think that they are fairly close. You are going to have some of those timeless cards from both eras that people will want to chase in the future. So I don't think that either one of these eras are going to go irrelevant, that the sets are going to be bad investments. Now, when I look 5 years into the future and I just think to myself, where do I really want to put my money from the SV era? It's kind of obvious at this point which sets are going to be the best. Now, the best sets aren't always going to be the best investments because you have to factor in what your buy cost is going to be. For example, maybe at this point, Destined Rivals, if I can bring it up here, maybe buying Destined Rivals at $450 over the next 5 years. And I know 5 years is a long period of time, but this might not be the best buy compared to grabbing, I don't know, Paradox Rift at like $260, if that makes sense. Like over a 5-year period, when we look at annualized ROI, considering that Destined Rivals is still a new set, it might get a lot of reprints. It might still get outperformed by Paradox Rift if you're buying it at market price. And I'm not saying that's going to happen. I just want to illustrate that there is a difference between, the best performing sets in the short term compared to which sets I think are going to perform the best in the long term. Because when you spread it out enough over enough years, maybe 10 years, 20 years, whatever, expand it out, generally the better sets, the more desirable sets with the top cards, those tend to outperform the average set from the era. So if I was putting my money into the Scarlet and Violet era now, if I had zero position in anything, I would obviously be buying a lot of Prismatic because I think the entry point right now is an absolute no-brainer, especially compared to where Destined Rivals is. 151's moving up. Paldean Fates is already like $300 in ETB. I would be buying a lot of prismatic. I think it just makes sense. But the other top sets that you probably want to have some exposure to, Paldean Fates, it's kind of obvious. Outside that, Destin Rivals, maybe over the next couple of years, try and dollar cost average into that. I do think Paldea Evolved is going to be legit in the future just because people will want to chase the Magikarp, which again, you know, we're up to like $400, maybe even $500. Who knows where it's going to level out? The gem rate is super low. People will want to chase that card in the future. Other obvious ones, 151, Twilight Masquerade, maybe you want to throw in some Surging Sparks. I think those are all decent sets to get a hold of. But depending on what you can buy these sets for, you might get better return on your investment over the next, I don't know, 18 to 24 months going into something like a Paradox Rift or a Temporal Forces, if I can pull these up. Like just buying these at a cheaper price, especially considering Paradox Rift is going out of print or at least out of rotation. Some of these might be better plays in the short term. That's just how I view it. But you guys can let me know in the comment section down below what you think. Either way, I think the Scarlet and Violet era is legit. I think a lot of these sets are going to be timeless classics that people will want to collect and open in the future. And one more thing I wanted to show you guys in this video, because I didn't bring up this tab yet. The Charizard V, I just thought this was interesting. It's not really relevant to the conversation. The Charizard V from Brilliant Stars is now up to like $400 raw. The most recent sales from a couple days ago, 374, 355. So maybe it's closer to like 375, 360, something like that. But it has moved up a lot because this card was sitting around $150 for a long time, $200, and now we're up to basically double that. It really is crazy in this hobby how every single day there's a new card taking off, someone trying to pump it to the moon, building their position. And the funny thing is, to the people that cry manipulation, a lot of these cards, after they get pumped, do not come back down to the level they were at before the pump. So it does tend to have an effect on the card, whether you like it or not. But with all that said, thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you did get some value out of it, I'd really appreciate if you leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below for the algorithm. We'll be back tomorrow to talk a little bit about specialty sets. Until then, stay safe wherever you are in the world, and I'll catch you in the next one.